Pedestrians in India face several challenges that impede their right to walk. Limited parking spaces force vehicles into roads, creating congestion and reducing pedestrian access. Poorly maintained subways and foot overbridges, often cluttered with two-wheelers, further complicate safe movement. Additionally, the scarcity of crosswalks and zebra crossings, combined with the rising vehicular traffic, places pedestrians at risk all the time. India's road safety crisis is underscored by persistently high pedestrian fatalities. In 2022, 32,862 pedestrians died in accidents. The right to walk is not just a matter of physical space, but encompasses a broader struggle for urban equality. In India, a rapidly urbanizing nation, the right to walk has emerged as a critical issue that demands attention. Pedestrian infrastructure in Indian cities is often neglected, leading to unsafe and uncomfortable walking conditions for millions. With more than 1.3 billion people and an estimated 600 million residing in urban areas, India faces a significant challenge in accommodating its diverse population's needs. According to a study by the Ministry of Urban Development, pedestrian fatalities accounted for approximately 45% of the total road traffic deaths, highlighting the dangers faced by those who walk. Furthermore, a report from the Urban Mobility India Conference reveals that only approximately 30% of urban road space is allocated for pedestrians, with the majority dedicated to vehicles. This disproportionate allocation not only endangers lives but also limits the freedom and right of citizens to traverse their city safely and comfortably. The right to walk is not just a matter of physical space but encompasses a broader struggle for urban equality, highlighting the urgent need for policy reform and infrastructure development to prioritize pedestrian rights in India. As we delve deeper into this pressing issue, it becomes evident that promoting pedestrian-friendly environments is essential for sustainable urban development and the overall quality of our life in urban areas. Official statistics from the Ministry of Road Transport and Highways reveal a stark reality. In 2021, a staggering 1.53 lakh individuals lost their lives in road accidents, translating to about 11.3 deaths per 1 lakh population in the country. Among these tragedies, pedestrian fatalities have reached alarming levels. The Bosch report highlights that about 29,200 pedestrians were killed in 2021 alone, a figure that surpasses the combined road fatalities of the entire European Union and Japan cumulatively, underscoring the dire conditions for pedestrians in India. India's road safety crisis is underscored by persistently high pedestrian fatalities. In 2022, 32,862 pedestrians died in accidents, nearly 20% of all road deaths, reflecting an upward trend from about 18.9% in 2021 and about 17.8% in 2020. These alarming statistics highlight the urgent need to advocate for the right to walk in Indian cities, which not only involves physical safety but also the dignity and freedom of movement of citizens. Prioritizing pedestrian-friendly infrastructure is crucial for improving urban mobility, enhancing public safety, and creating a more equitable urban environment in the country. Indian laws really do not have a specific framework that guarantees the right to walk, but they do touch on pedestrian safety through the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita of 2023 and the Motor Vehicles Act of 1988. Illustratively, sections 105, 125 and 281 of the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita address actions that could put pedestrians in danger. Similarly, the Motor Vehicles Act, including sections from 7 to 38 and 112, which sets, for example, speed limits, and 138 relate to pedestrian safety. The Rules of Road Regulations 1989 really emphasizes that drivers are responsible for keeping pedestrians safe. Drivers must follow patterns where they slow down when approaching pedestrian crossings, Rule 8 for example, and can't drive on footpaths or cycle lanes without specific police permission. At uncontrolled crossings, pedestrians have the right of way, Rule 11 for example, and parking near traffic lights and pedestrian crossings or on footpaths is a big no-no, Rule 15 for example. The Indian Roads Congress 2022 guidelines set standards for safe pedestrian infrastructure in urban areas, highlighting 5 key principles: safety from motorized vehicles, security in crime-free spaces, continuity of unobstructed pathways, comfort through well-maintained and shaded walkways, and livability that encourages social interaction and enjoyment of the environment. These principles aim to create inclusive and pleasant walking experiences for all individuals. Pedestrians in India face several challenges that impede their right to walk. Limited parking spaces force vehicles into roads, creating congestion and reducing pedestrian access. Poorly maintained subways and foot overbridges, often cluttered with two-wheelers, further complicate safe movement. Additionally, the scarcity of crosswalks and zebra crossings, combined with the rising vehicular traffic, places pedestrians at risk all the time. Finally, a lack of infrastructure for individuals with disabilities makes navigating urban environments particularly difficult for them. Judiciary has had its share on creating and enforcing the right to walk. In 1985, the Supreme Court of India addressed pedestrian rights in the significant case of Olga Tellis versus Mumbai Municipal Corporation. The court emphasized that footpaths are public property designed for the convenience of the general public and should not be used for private purposes. Their primary purpose is to provide pedestrians with a safe and secure means of navigating their surroundings, and allowing encroachment on these pavements undermines this essential right. In the case of Sudhir Madan versus Municipal Corporation of Delhi, the Supreme Court again reaffirmed that citizens have a fundamental right to access roads, footpaths, parks, and public facilities. The right to use pathways and footpaths belongs to the citizens, and no hawker can undermine that right. While hawkers are numerous, they are far outnumbered by the general public, and the fundamental rights of citizens must take precedence over the interests of hawkers and squatters occupying public spaces, the court said. Authorities must prioritize this principle when creating regulations and, if possible, provide designated areas for hawkers without infringing on the citizens' right. In Vijayan Menon versus Secretary Urban Development Department, the Karnataka High Court emphasized that Supreme Court of India has broadened the interpretation of the right to life under Article 21, and it noted that footpaths and streets are essential for comfortable movement of pedestrians and vehicles, and neglecting their maintenance violates Article 21. The court stated that citizens are entitled to well-maintained footpaths and streets as a fundamental right. To similar effect was Shiva Prasad versus State of Kerala, when the Kerala High Court affirmed that roadways and footpaths are designated to facilitate movement and transport. The court asserted that removing encroachments on footpaths is not unreasonable, as the state has the duty to protect the citizens' right and uphold the public trust doctrine. No one has the right to erect structures on public roadways, and the state must not allow such encroachments. Now, we are still far behind from global best practices. In developed nations such as the United States and Canada, for example, and even several European countries, pedestrian rights are well documented, established, and prioritized in urban planning. Infrastructure designed for safety, including crosswalks and pedestrian signals, is prevalent, and strict enforcement measures ensure that drivers face penalties for failing to yield to pedestrians. In contrast, in developing countries such as Brazil and South Africa, and including India, the countries face challenge relating to road encroachments and inadequate infrastructure. However, some nations such as Brazil have made progress in enhancing pedestrian safety through targeted urban planning initiatives. Overall, while developed nations set high standards for pedestrian rights, developing countries are beginning to recognize and address these crucial issues. The growing global emphasis on non-motorized public transport and the development of mixed-use urban spaces reflects a commitment to combating climate change and addressing raising energy demands. Expanding pedestrian infrastructure plays a crucial role in this transformation, providing significant economic, environmental, and health benefits. For effective implementation, government policies must adapt to these evolving needs, and it is essential to establish a dedicated agency responsible for enforcing pedestrian-friendly measures, including penalties for misuse of sidewalks. Additionally, integrating street vendors into urban planning can foster inclusivity and enhance urban vitality, drawing on the global examples that highlight increased employment and retail success. In India, Punjab's pioneering initiative to enforce the right to walk marks a significant step forward, mandating that all road agencies provide essential footpaths and cycle tracks in all new projects. The initiative in Punjab not only promotes pedestrian safety but also sets a precedent for other states to follow in addressing the alarming rise in pedestrian and cyclist fatalities.